to my channel. My name is Allie and I am a mom to a 1.5-year-old and I am pregnant with my second baby boy. So today I'm just gonna kind of be talking about pregnancy and just like the real raw things that nobody really likes to talk about. You know, the stuff that they just like to skip over and tell you how beautiful pregnancy is. And while it is the most magical thing you will ever do in your life, it is also one of the most exhausting and even like mentally and physically draining things that you'll ever do. So I just wanted to sit down and kind of keep it real with you. And yeah, so I have like a little list here of things that I want to talk about that I just kind of wrote down in my little notebook. So the first thing I'm going to start with is Braxton Hicks, because they can hurt. And everybody always talks about, like with my first pregnancy, I was like, oh, these are just pains. And the doctor would always be like, oh, Braxton Hicks won't hurt. They can't hurt. They won't feel like contractions. They'll just feel like a little pressure. But this being my second pregnancy, I've come to notice that sometimes Braxton Hicks can become almost so unbearable you think you're having contractions. And I am not a medical professional, so do not take medical advice from me. I mean, always talk to your doctor. That's so important. Don't get on here on YouTube and take medical advice from people who aren't doctors. So, as I was told, if they aren't consistent and 3 to 5 minutes apart, 1 minute long for an hour, don't be concerned. Which I know that's not always true either, and that's something people leave out, because I have seen tons of people that have posted birth stories and birth videos that were literally only in labor for an hour. So again, don't listen to me because I am not a medical professional. Always talk to your doctor, but if you have that feeling like something just isn't right, always call your doctor or always go straight into labor and delivery. There's never anything that, like, if you have a feeling, like, us moms know when something's wrong sometimes better than a doctor will. So I always suggest calling your labor and delivery or your doctor or going in. And something else nobody ever told is the cramping in the first trimester, whether it's the first time around or the second time around, literally feels like you're going to start your period. I could have swore for like almost the entire first trimester, when your body is stretching and getting ready to grow, and especially the second time around, that the cramping was unreal. There was times I had to lay on the couch with a heating pad or something like that because I couldn't take it. It literally felt like the worst period cramps of my life. And we have a growing baby boy. The next thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit are like your nipples and your boobs. And everybody always talks about how big your boobs get and how they're going to be growing and how your nipples are going to get larger and change in color. But I guess this kind of goes into the seeing your body change thing. Nobody really prepares you for the way it's going to feel seeing your body change. Nobody prepares you for the way it feels when you look in the mirror and you realize, I don't look the same. Do I like the way I look? Am I okay with this body for the rest of my life? I mean, growing a human is obviously, like I said, a beautiful thing and it's so sacred, but sometimes you just can't help to think to yourself, am I always going to look this way? And this time around and my last time, I'm not gonna lie, my boobs never got any bigger. I didn't get the big, huge boobs that everybody always talks about, and I keep wondering, like, why I'm not getting these big boobs everybody talks about, because, you know, that might be kind of nice if they would change and get bigger. But instead, my nipples are literally like the size of salami, not pepperoni, salami. And they get so dark when I'm pregnant, and even after I had the baby while I'm breastfeeding, they're still pretty dark. And nobody ever really prepares you for that moment when you're just like, man, are these what my boobs are always gonna look like? And the glow. You always, always, always hear about the pregnancy glow. And I was so excited not so excited, but I was like pumped looking forward to this glow, you know, with my first. And, you know, people looking at me and being like, oh, you know, like, I can tell you're pregnant, you're glowing, or, you know, like, you're glowing, girl, like, I can tell. Instead, I just got a pizza face. My face broke out so bad. It got so oily. If that's the glow they're talking about, then I had it. But I'm pretty sure that's not what they mean, because my face broke out so bad. It got so oily. And then after it got oily, towards the end, it got really, really, really dry, to the point where right here on my face would literally, like, the skin would literally peel. And I never got a glow the entire time. There's pictures I look back from the day I gave birth, no glow. And this time around, I was like, well, maybe, you know, like, this will be my time. Like, maybe I'll glow this time, you know, maybe my skin won't break out as bad this time. Because immediately after I gave birth the first time, my face cleared up and it went back to normal. My skin pretty much went back to normal, everything. Well, this time around, it's back, and it's just as bad. It's getting just as bad as it did the first time. And I've always had pretty clear skin. I've never really had any issues. Maybe that's why God's like, maybe we'll just let your face break out while you're pregnant, since, you know, the rest of the time it's normal. I don't know. But this time around, I definitely have not gotten a glow. And my face, again, it didn't get oily this time, but it is super dry, and there's bumps all over it. Literally all over it. And I don't know if you can see them all, because I did put on makeup for the first time in almost my entire pregnancy today. But yeah, it's not a glow, and it doesn't make you feel very good all the time. But I'm learning to live with it, especially the second time around. I'm really just trying to enjoy this pregnancy and everything that comes with it, regardless, because I know as soon as my beautiful baby boy is here, that it will go away. So, just dealing with it for now. And another thing is, like, nobody really talks about your body stretching. Like, they always talk about how you'll look different, and how it's, you know, again, so beautiful to, you know, watch your body grow. But nobody talks about how the fact that your body will literally stretch till you feel your skin get so tight that it feels like if you stretch any more, you are literally going to bust. My first time around, and I am only 28 weeks now with my second, and starting to get almost just as big as I was with my first, around 35 weeks, which is pretty big. I got pretty big with him, and this time it looks like I'm going to get any bigger, which I literally don't see how is going to even happen, considering it got to the point where it felt like my skin was going to rip in half if it got any bigger. And it leaves these lovely stretch marks all over your body and your stomach and everywhere else, which you do learn to love. And it's not, I guess stretch marks is like a whole different thing in themselves, because you really do learn to love them. Like, after you hold your beautiful little baby and you look at the body that, you know, you have now that created it, whether your body's overweight than it was before, or you're fatter than you were before, or you are skinnier than you were before it even happens, you learn to love them because you look at this beautiful little thing that was created and you're like, wow, like I did this, like I grew this little person inside of me, and like he's here or she's here, and you just learn to love them. And even if you don't love them the first few months, the first 6 months, even the first few years, sometimes it takes a while. Not everybody's going to look in the mirror and look at their new body and look at the stretch marks that they have and just fall in love. They're not. It's just not realistic at all. You have to work, and some people do everything they can to get rid of them. Me, while I would love them to fade, it's not my biggest concern because I know that I created these little humans, but not everybody loves them, and that's okay. That's really okay. So rudely got interrupted by a call. No, I'm just kidding. It was just EJ calling to let me know he's on his way home and that he wanted Trace to be awake when he got here because he is taking a nap while I'm filming this. But back on topic, another thing that people don't really talk about is feet swelling. And like you hear it mentioned here and there, but you mostly just hear it like mentioned in scary scenarios like preeclampsia and things like that. But I never had preeclampsia with my first, and I don't have it this time as far as I know. So far so good. But my feet always swell. Even my hands swell and get fat and chunky, and my feet and ankles really get to the point where I can only wear sandals or flip-flops. Like those are really my only two options. I gave birth to my son in December, and my feet were so swollen at the time I literally had to wear flip-flops to give birth. So yeah, nobody really talks about that except for in really scary scenarios, and it turns out that it's a really normal thing for your feet and your hands to swell, as long as, well, it's normal the further along you get, from what I understand. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional, but nobody really seems to talk about it unless it's talking about preeclampsia or something like that. And I remember when my feet swelled with my first, is it swelled up? I don't know. Anyways, when my feet got swollen with my first, I really freaked out, and I thought that I had preeclampsia because they had gotten so big I couldn't wear anything but my sandals and my flip-flops. And my doctor checked everything out. They ran all the tests, and I didn't have preeclampsia or anything like that. And he told me that the further along you get, it is normal for swelling like that to happen. And this time around it is happening again, and again I don't have preeclampsia. And I just feel like it's really important for like even first-time moms to know that don't necessarily just freak out if you start having swelling in like your feet and your ankles and stuff like that, because it doesn't always mean that you have preeclampsia. Sometimes it's just happens and it can be normal. So don't just freak out as soon as it happens, unless of course you have like other symptoms or you do have that feeling that like something is wrong or it could be concerning. Then I would say definitely call your doctor and let him know what's going on, and yeah, let him run all the tests. Another thing nobody told me about, all this is just kind of stuff like nobody really told me about, so that's why I just keep saying like another thing nobody really told me about, because it was all just kind of stuff that I learned with my first and just kind of took it as it was coming, because people didn't tell me about these things. They told me about the glow, or you know, the stretch marks. They just told me about the glorious stuff really, or like the stretch marks, or nobody really talked about the, you know, Braxton Hicks, or your vagina swelling up to the size of a baseball towards the end because you have a baby sitting on it, or the glow not being really a thing And so, like, I just felt like it was really important to put this video out there to let you know, like, that some of these things are normal. Not everybody has a perfect pregnancy where they're just glowing and gorgeous and glamorous and it's just perfect, you know, like, that's just not realistic. Even if you do seem to have, even if you do, like, have that glow, a perfect, glamorous pregnancy without one or two things that just are, like, uncomfortable to talk about is just not realistic in my mind. Because pregnancy can get gruesome. And nobody really told me about these things, and they didn't tell me about how my face was gonna get fat and my nose was gonna swell up and how I was gonna look like a completely different person towards the end of my pregnancy, and how that you have this huge fear. Like, for the last half of your pregnancy, at least that's when it really set in for me after all of the excitement, that you're going to be caring for this little human. And this time around, for me, it's really like, how am I going to keep another human alive and keep my toddler from attacking him, or keeping my toddler from, you know, like, beating him up, or, you know, accidentally, you know, like, causing an accident to happen while I've turned my back for 2 seconds to put a bottle in the bottle warmer, or get a juice out of the fridge for my toddler. Like, how am I going to do these things? How am I going to go from being a mom of 1 to 2? And people say that that transition is a lot easier than going from no children to 1 child, and it still is no different. Instead of having the anxiety of, how am I going to care for a human? Like, how am I going to do this right? How am I going to know what to do? How am I going to know that the diaper fits on there perfectly? Or how am I going to know what his hungry cry sounds like versus his sleepy cry? Or how am I going to know when it's time to move up for the next diaper size? Or when it's time to feed him, you know, if he wasn't hungry the 2 hours after I fed him the first time? Or, you know, what's cluster feeding when it comes to breastfeeding? What if I don't do it right? What if my milk supply is not right? You know, you have all these genuine concerns, and all of it's normal. All of it. It's so normal, and I hate when people feel singled out, or they feel like they're not doing their job as a mom right, because nobody told them these things. Nobody told them about the anxiety that comes along with being a new mom, or a second, third, fourth, fifth time mom, because every child comes with those anxieties. Nobody told you those things. So I just really wanted to make this video, that way I can say I put it out there. That way I can say, you're not alone. You're not by yourself. You're not the only one that thinks those way. You're not the only one that thinks that way. You're not the only one that those things have happened to. And that it's not all, you know, roses and diamonds and butterflies and glowing looks and glamorous things. Pregnancy can be raw, and it can be tough, and it can be hard, but it is so rewarding, and it is the best thing that you will ever do in your entire life. Because when you hold that little baby for the very first time, you're not going to think about the pimples on your face, or your flip-flops that you had to wear into the labor and delivery room because nothing else fit, or the fact that your nipples are the size of salami. You're not going to think of any of that. All you're going to think about is how much you love that baby, and how much you love your little family. And that's really all it's going to come down to, and that's really all that matters. But it's so important that you feel like you're not alone, because you're not. We all have been through something during pregnancy that wasn't glamorous or great or awesome. It was actually quite awful, or you looked at yourself like, man, this is what I'm gonna look like. So yeah, it was just important that I put this out there, and I'm going to go ahead and end the video here before I continue on my long rant and go get my sweet baby boy up from his nap and cook dinner. So I will see you all in my next video. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I will have all my social media linked down below in the description box, and I will see you next time.